Hello and welcome to the Engineering Influence podcast from the American Council of Engineering Companies. My name is Allison Schneider and I'm joined today by Dave McIvor, CEO of Rynearson. He is going to talk to us today about engineering with heart, purpose, people, and the path forward. Dave, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
So you stepped into the role of CEO at Rynearson during a time when engineering is being asked to do more than just deliver infrastructure. It's being asked to deliver impact. Listeners of the pod know that's something we talk a lot about here. How are you approaching this new chapter of leadership with that in mind?
Sure. That shift, the idea of engineering for impact, to be totally honest, is what drew me to this role. At Rynearson, we don't just design for today's needs. We really understand that design shapes places that serve generations, right? So our work is really rooted in the belief that infrastructure is more than just function. It's a platform for connection. It's also a platform for community growth. So as I've really stepped into this chapter of leadership, I've approached it maybe with a clarity of purpose to center our work around our people and not just our projects. The mindset really shows up in how we build relationships, both internally and externally. So whether it's a client partnership or a community conversation, or even a conversation within our own team, we're always working to deepen that trust and alignment around shared goals. Relationships are really the foundation of everything that we do. Because when people feel seen, heard, and included, they bring their best to the table, and really that's where innovation happens. So in practice, it means making space for vision, not just in our designs, but also in how we show up. So how we listen, how we collaborate, how we support one another when things get really complex, right? We aim to deliver infrastructure that works and lasts, but just as important as function and durability, we want that infrastructure to foster a sense of belonging, kind of reflecting that community identity and supporting long-term value.
That's so important to understand both your folks and your clients and how it all works together and what that means for the community, what you're actually able to deliver.
Yeah, for sure.
Rynearson's purpose is to leave a legacy of enduring improvements in the community you serve. Through your first year as CEO, how has that mission come alive for you, personally and professionally?
Yeah, personally, I think what I've come to recognize is that legacy isn't always about big, sweeping gestures. It's about the small, consistent acts of stewardship, that we really add up over time. It's found in how we choose to lead with care, even when nobody's watching. It's found in doing the right thing in the right way for the right reasons every time we do something. Legacy to me is it's rooted in presence. And that mindset is how I've approached both leadership and life. Whether I'm sitting in a meeting with our team or I'm walking a site in a neighborhood that we're serving, I really try to stay grounded in the idea that every interaction matters, no matter how big or how small, because it's really those everyday moments, the thoughtful questions, the willingness to adapt, the effort to connect. Those wind up being the building blocks of trust, and trust is what legacy is built on. Professionally, I've seen that same sense of stewardship come to life across our firm. Our teams are putting this purpose into action in remarkable ways, from protecting vital natural resources to creating inclusive public spaces where people of all ages and backgrounds can gather, learn, and thrive. And they're not just technical achievements, they're human achievements. So what really makes it powerful is the alignment between our work and our impact. It's what gives this role real weight for me. It reminds me that leadership isn't about being at the front. It's about being in service together. It's about making decisions that reflect who we are and what we stand for, and then carrying out the actions that demonstrate our commitment to each other and to our communities. And if we do that well, if we lead with purpose, with empathy, and with excellence, the communities we touch will feel those effects long after the project is complete, the job trailer is gone, the contractor's packed up and left. And that's the kind of legacy that's worth leaving. And quite frankly, it's one that I'm proud and humbled to be able to build alongside our team every day.
And I think folks outside the industry may not realize how much of engineering is human.
Yes.
It's certainly rooted in math and science, but there is such a human element involved. Communities know when their input is being taken into consideration, when they're a part of the process to help improve things, and when they're being left out.
Absolutely. Yeah. To be able to engage the community, the clients, those stakeholders, those partners that are going to be using it for a long time to come is such a valuable part of what we do when we're doing our design, working through construction, and celebrating how a project is going to impact all of those that'll come into contact with it.
You mentioned trust. I think that's also a really important component of this industry.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we are entrusted obviously with life and health and safety, but also with impact and, the kind of things that really get people connected and sharing and interacting with the world around them. And you can't take that lightly, for sure. Trust is earned over time. And then we continue to demonstrate our commitment to each other as we live that out.
Your leadership style has been described as both values-driven and people-focused. In industry, we mentioned how it is rooted in technical precision. How do you intentionally lead with that emotional intelligence? I know that some listeners may be bristling at that a little bit, wondering if that is really necessary. But what does that look like in practice for both your team and the work you deliver in those communities?
Yeah, for sure. It is interesting that, yes, engineering is very much a technical skill. It's a technical field, right? And it requires precision and thought and care around the specific design we're doing. But it isn't just that. Emotional intelligence isn't a soft skill. It's a critical one. In this industry, we solve complex problems. That's what we do, and they affect real lives. So if I'm not listening with empathy or leading with humility, or if I'm not focusing on serving others with our work, then I'm missing the mark. I'm missing that people part of solving complex problems. We can all use technology to solve a myriad of problems, and we're seeing an incredible growth in AI and how we can incorporate that in our work. But there's still very much a human component to what we do. So for me, it means being present. It means knowing when to ask questions instead of giving answers. And it means building that trust through consistency and care. With my team, it looks like creating space for various perspectives and showing up as a human being, not just a CEO. Yes, for sure. We're a business. Every one of us in this industry, we're running a business, and we need to operate as one. But that doesn't mean that we take the humanity out of the interaction. Instead, we put our people at the heart of our decisions, and we understand through conversation and relationship how our people are impacted by those decisions internally. And then with our clients and our communities, it becomes about collaboration. It's about designing with them and not just for them. And the shift from transactional to relational, really to transformational thinking is where real impact happens. Because when you lead with heart, you create space for technical excellence to be paired with purpose. That's what really resonates with us. That's the kind of work that endures. And that's the kind of stewardship that we want to be a part of at Rynearson.
I think there could even be a shift in the understanding of what emotional intelligence is, because engineers are doing it every day. They're being considerate of how people are going to be using these solutions that they're developing. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis? What do we need to take into consideration about how other people are experiencing it? So they really do go hand in hand.
They do, for sure. And when we can incorporate, multiple perspectives, when we can have those conversations, when we can get that shared buy-in, we see that people are more vested in seeing success. They're more interested in the project, and they bring maybe even some unique opportunities to solve problems in a different way that even has more impact. That collaboration and innovation and creativity really comes to light when we're willing to ask questions and hear those different perspectives and how the use might change what we're doing in terms of the design. And so all of that is important in solving the complex problems from more than just a technical perspective.
We've talked about inclusivity here, which can get a bad rap sometimes, but you explain it very well. It's going out and getting those voices in to talk about how different people are going to be using it so that they can bring those perspectives, help get all of that in the design process so that we can serve as many folks as possible.
Yeah,
in your
very
first
much
year
so.
on leadership, what have you learned about cultivating a strong company culture? That is, sometimes a buzzword now, but in a firm where people, relationships, and purpose matter as much as the technical work, at a time when there is such a shortage of engineers and they can go anywhere they want, what have you learned about company culture?
I've learned a lot. I've learned that culture isn't built in the conference room. It's really built in those in-between moments. I've learned that it's built in those check-ins, the mentorship, and even the way we treat each other, whether we're having a good day or a bad day, and about showing up with authenticity. Our firm is really filled with people who care deeply. They care about their work, but they care about each other, and they care about the communities in which we serve. And my job as CEO is to protect that, to support and encourage and even amplify that focus. I've also learned that culture doesn't happen overnight. I've been with Rynearson now for 25 years, and I've seen over the course of my career how our people have continued to grow stronger together over time. I've seen relationships among staff members grow deeper, even as individuals take on new responsibilities and new roles. But even with all of that experience, all the time with the firm, stepping into this role doesn't grant automatic trust, right? It takes time. It also takes authenticity. So I have to lead with that authenticity in both word and action to strengthen those bonds and encourage those to get people connected. Because when people feel connected to purpose and supported in growth and trusted to lead, to do their job well, they do their best work. So we really have spent time talking about investing in relationships and how important they are. We celebrate the stories. We really celebrate the people that are behind the projects that we do. And we stay rooted in our values because they're the things that create a legacy that lasts.
Yeah, sometimes we can finish a project and move on to the next one so quickly without taking a moment to really appreciate all of the work that went into that.
Yeah.
All of the different hands that made it possible and what it means for the community, what is going to change, what's going to be better. So I think that's an important point. What advice would you give to other leaders, whether they're emerging leaders, established leaders, about balancing business growth with values-based leadership in this evolving industry?
Yeah, this is an interesting question, and maybe even one that I feel maybe somewhat underprepared or underexperienced even to answer, right? Stepping into this role and being so new. But at the same time, the things that have carried me through my career still hold true even in this new role. And that's really that values can't be a side note to strategy. Values themselves can be the strategy. It's easy in a business sense to chase growth for growth's sake, but growth without purpose can take you a long ways off. And we can focus on growing profitability by X% per year or having a revenue at a certain number, but it doesn't wind up being sustainable if purpose isn't woven into that growth. The most sustainable momentum doesn't come from pushing harder. It really comes from alignment. When your team understands why the work they're doing matters, not just how they're doing the work, it really unlocks a deeper level of engagement, creativity, and accountability. People want to be a part of that. It gives them that greater sense of purpose. For me, leadership starts with service. It's the core of servant leadership, putting people first, removing those barriers, and creating an environment where others can thrive. It means being willing to slow down and listen, even when so often the pressure is, we've got to move faster, we've got to move harder. But it also means asking, how can I support you, rather than asking, what are you doing for me? Leading with clarity and care, it's not flashy, but it does have real impact. It has impact internally and externally. It's really more about consistency. It's more about consistency. It's about integrity. It's about being the kind of leader who makes decisions that you'd be proud to explain to your kids one day. And it's not just because we're being profitable, but it's because we're making the right decisions. We're doing things the right way. At the end of the day, our legacy as leaders, it's not going to be measured in things like square footage or even profit margins. It'll be measured in the people that we uplift and in the communities we strengthen and even the trust that we build along the way. It's what we're here to do. And if we can keep that front and center, if we lead with purpose, then we'll build something that endures well beyond our time.
I'm hearing you say that you take a leadership approach for a much longer term, considering that legacy. It's easy to be a flash in the pan, to go really hard and burn everybody out. But what comes next? How do you build something sustainable? And that's what you're focused on.
Absolutely. We can't just take a short term, or we can't plan for how do we flex? How do we pivot? How do we continue to care for our people and be ready for making adjustments? If we're just concerned with the here and now, the next 6 months or the next 2 years, leadership is about a long-term growth and long-term viability and long-term impact in our people's lives, our communities' lives, and ultimately perpetuating us for the future.
Sounds like it's good for your folks, good for the firm, all good things.
Yeah, it has certainly been in my career, being able to follow in the footsteps of several others that have really laid this foundation. And I will admit I'm humbled and privileged to be able to carry that legacy on as we continue to move into the future.
Well, Dave, thanks so much for coming on. We'd love to have you back anytime. Maybe we'll bring you back after year 2 and we can do a check-in.
I'd like that very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for joining us for another Engineering Influence podcast. We'll see you next time.